The Chicago Police Union says to expect staffing shortages starting this weekend as a result of their fight over the city's vaccine mandate. All that and much more with our Spotlight Politics team. Back again are Heather Sharon, Amanda Vinicky, and Paris Schutz. So, welcome back, everybody. Let's start with Fraternal Order of Police Union President John CATANZARA, who told his members to buck the mayor's vaccine mandate, resulting in a mandatory suspension. Take a look.
If we suspect the numbers are true and we get a large number of our members to stand firm on their beliefs that this is an overreach and they're not going to supply the information in the portal or submit the testing, then it's safe to say the city of Chicago will have a police force at 50% or less for this weekend coming up. That is not because of the FOP. That is 100% because of the mayor's unwillingness to budge from her hard line. So whatever happens because of that manpower issue, that falls at the mayor's doorstep.
So Heather, does anybody have a handle just yet on how many officers have actually submitted their vaccine cards to the portal where they can submit that?
We don't know, and that is the question. The mayor and the city has said that they aren't going to talk about what percentage of city employees have said that they are vaccinated, but I think it's important to take a step back and realize Chicago is not the first city to impose a vaccine mandate on its employees. And in cities across the country, specifically in New York and California, there has been nowhere near the number of employees bucking the mandate that the FOP president seems to think that we're in store for here in Chicago. The city as a whole is relatively vaccinated, and you would assume that the police are part of that community, so it's represented in that data, but we will have to see, although several aldermen are warning tonight that they're very concerned about what this would mean. Even though Mayor Lightfoot stepped back from the mandate on Friday and said that you can stay employed and avoid discipline if you test for COVID twice a week on your own time at your own expense.
Now, just briefly, the superintendent was asked about this today. He was part of this press conference with the FBI, the superintendent of police, David Brown. He was not ready to touch it. Asked, are you concerned about staffing, particularly violence heading into the weekend? He was not ready to touch that and had no answers.
And Amanda, I imagine they're probably keeping a very close eye on that number of police officers who have or are submitting or showing their proof of vaccine through that portal. But Heather, the FOP still says, this is an overreach. Is this going to end up in court?
Probably, although I have to say that the ability, the legal authority of people to order vaccine mandates in cases like this, where it's a communicable disease, where it's airborne, it is pretty rock solid. We've seen colleges, have their vaccine mandates upheld, and we've seen vaccine mandates upheld in both California and New York by federal courts. So, anybody can sue. I don't know if it will be effective. And I think the question is, did Mayor Lightfoot, miscalculate by sort of offering this testing option when it seems to have not really been part of what the FOP is talking about? Although a couple weeks ago, the president said, hey, don't worry about it. Just take a test and you don't have to worry about the vaccine. I'm not clear why that's no longer an option that he's talking about, but the FOP and the mayor have been at odds since day one, since she's been in office. So this is more of the same, a different chapter, perhaps.
So meanwhile, John CATANZARA, he released this video statement that we just saw a little while ago, on the same day that his predecessor, or a couple of presidents back, Dean Angelo, died from COVID-19 and complications. Paris, what are the optics of this for the FOP?
Well, let's first offer our condolences to the family of Dean Angelo. Comes from a family of cops. His son is a cop. He was president of the FOP from 2014 to 2017, a critical time when the Laquan McDonald, Jason Van Dyke case bubbled up and when there was the Police Accountability Task Force appointed by the mayor, basically to reform all oversight. And by the way, Lori Lightfoot headed that task force. And I know for a fact, despite them being on opposite sides of that, they liked each other, they grew fond of each other. Dean Angelo is an example of someone who fought for his ideals, but could disagree without being disagreeable. So our condolences to him. And it's not just him. I mean, there's multiple police officers have died of COVID-19. The New York Times reports that COVID-19 is the #1 killer of police officers across the country. So yes, it does complicate the optics, and it makes it seem like the FOP president is using a little political opportunism here to create a fight, to create controversy, maybe to boost himself. But as Heather said, it doesn't. Companies across the country, municipalities have imposed these mandates, and it seems like they're on solid legal ground to do it.
So, Amanda, Governor Pritzker is also dealing with lawsuits over vaccine mandates for school employees. He's calling these suits, quote, extraordinarily irresponsible. Who's suing, and what is their goal here?
I'll repeat a phrase that Heather used earlier, and that's that anybody can file a lawsuit. So there are a bunch of lawsuits, and frankly, there have been throughout the pandemic, be it from restaurants that didn't want to abide by state orders restricting the number of patrons they could allow in. Now we're facing pushback against vaccine mandates. So you've got firefighters that are saying that the executive order is illegal, that the government cannot force public employees, they fall under the healthcare mantle, to receive a vaccine. Also, a similar order in place for educators, for teachers. And so there's pushback all over the state. You also have parents that are suing over mask mandates. I mean, so really, pick a lawsuit, pick a place. There is something that the Pritzker administration is being brought to in court. There are a couple of points. Just number one, that again, the Pritzker administration, fairly solid ground in many ways, or at least has been able to fend off many of these lawsuits thus far, just due to the nature that this is a public health situation. That said, perhaps reaching the outer limits of that, we've done stories on this right of conscience law that might be used in some of these cases that perhaps Illinois is looking to amend. A lot has been done via executive order instead of statutory authority, the legislature really taking a backseat and letting the administration handle it. So that could perhaps change the dynamic in some of these newer, fresher cases. And then third, of course, there's this issue of negotiating with unions, something that the Pritzker administration is still in the midst of as he tries to handle a vaccine mandate for certain state employees.
Okay, so moving over, more to the city, Inspector General Joe Ferguson leaving at the end of the week after 12 years as the city's watchdog. Not going quietly, though, Heather. Ferguson reports that some alder people who get committee funds are instead using that money in their wards. So tell us what's going on here, and is that illegal?
Well, he says it might be, although the response from the alder people who are and were committee chairs says, nope, all of this money is being spent on personnel, so that makes it totally okay. But the Inspector General is pointing out that if you're a committee chair, you have about $200,000 extra, and maybe you have a committee that meets once a month, twice a month, and all of the rest of the time, those employees have time on their hand to do constituent services. And what do we know about Chicago? Chicago likes to reelect aldermen who perform constituent service. That means get you a garbage cart. That means fill the pothole. And his audit released today says that that's not especially fair, because it means certain wards get different services based on the political clout of those aldermen. So he's sounding the alarm as he leaves out. And I think it's worth mentioning that he was given the authority to audit the city council committees and to scrutinize the aldermen's conduct back in 2019. And this has been a point of contention for many, many years. So he is leaving with quite a bang, and he's putting the aldermen on notice that this might have been the way that it's always been done in Chicago, but it might not be fair, and it might not be the best way to spend taxpayer dollars.
Heather, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I do want to clarify. We reported this earlier in the show. This is looking at committees up until 2019, so it doesn't implicate committee chairs who have taken their chairpersonship since 2019. So I don't want to insinuate that people who are currently chairs of committees like Budget and Finance are the target of this report. Is that correct?
That's correct. So this goes all the way back to 2015. Inspector General Ferguson also found that some committees don't even keep track of their attendees or their employees' attendance, and that it's all done except for one committee on paper records. And that seems pretty 20th century, according to the Inspector General, because if you're going to get paid by the city should be able to document what you've done for the city. But that's not how the City Hall works all the time anyway.
And Paris, back to you. You know, Ferguson also sounded the alarm about fire department response times. What's the issue there?
Well, this is something that he's audited several times, and he sounded the alarm on several times that the fire department is not measuring its average response times for ambulances or fire trucks to get where they need to go. The national recommendation is 5 minutes, 5 minutes from when you place the call to when the ambulance or fire truck arrives. And the thing is, there's just no data that the fire department has to analyze that, and fire department says that they're working on it, basically. But this is something that he's brought up time and time again, and it's useful to know, you know, what the average time is so that they can improve their service if they need to.
Amanda, Illinois House Republicans say that the public hearings over reworking congressional maps are a sham. Do they have a point, or do they have sour grapes because they're in the super minority?
Yeah, Illinois Senate Republicans too, for that matter. And frankly, I think the answer is both. There is a bit of sour grapes frustration here, and that's in large part because this does have huge consequences for the party. But also, it's not just a partisan argument. You have pretty much every organization that has testified, partaken in these hearings, be it the quote-unquote good government groups and those that call for greater transparency, as well as many organizations. You look at groups such as, you know, MALDEF, an ad hoc organization of various Black leadership groups, and that is we talked with the leader of this new organization yesterday, the Illinois African Americans for Equitable Redistricting. I mean, they say that these are a sham too. The League of Women Voters. I mean, pick an organization, and it is very apparent that while they are holding public hearings, that's just sort of cover. What is the actual work? What is happening is being done behind closed doors. And despite repeated questions from reporters and witnesses asking, will we at least get to see the maps before you vote on them, make them law? That is, in fact, not as what happening, and that is contrary to, frankly, the promises that Governor Pritzker made when he was a candidate.
Heather, Jill Biden, First Lady, was in Chicago for a 2-day swing. She appeared yesterday with Congressman Chuy Garcia. Is this an attempt to reach out to a member of the Progressive Caucus who objects to the president's, you know, sort of shrinking priorities?
Well, it's interesting because Chuy Garcia is in lockstep with the Biden administration. It's really the so-called moderates who have put up a block to both the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the so-called Build Back Better $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. So there was no doubt that there was a political calculation in sending the First Lady to Chicago to appear with Chuy Garcia. It's also Hispanic Heritage Month, and Chuy Garcia represents a primarily Latino district in Chicago where the Latino population is growing significantly. So this was, you know, several birds, one stone. And she toured community colleges here in Chicago. Of course, she is the First Lady to continue to work, and she is a community college professor. So this was very much in her wheelhouse, as well as perhaps a little bit of a benefit for a congressional ally who has been stalwart in helping the president, even though the president is sort of under fire, it seems like all sides all day.
So from the wheelhouse to the courthouse, a CEO pleads guilty to illegally funding former clerk, Cook County Court Clerk, Circuit Clerk Dorothy Brown's Women's History Month program. Now, Paris, Brown has been investigated. People around her have been gone to prison for their dealings, but she has not. So bring us up to speed. What's going on there?
And the former Circuit Court Clerk, famous for those jeans days where employees had to kind of donate to her campaign fund and then wear jeans for the honor of wearing jeans to work. But so many folks around her have been indicted or are cooperating, and yet she has the moniker the unsinkable Dorothy Brown because she is not, that we know. But there have been reports that she's subject to federal investigation. In this case, it was the CEO of a company called Penn Credit accused of bribery here, hoping that in return for these gifts and the fundraiser that he would get debt collection work from Dorothy Brown's office. So the interesting thing here is a deferred prosecution. The charges will go away after 2 years, and contingent on him cooperating in an ongoing investigation. What is that ongoing investigation about? Is that about Dorothy Brown? We don't know. So that's the interesting part of that. But again, so many folks in the periphery of Dorothy Brown's career there are in federal trouble.
And we've got just a few seconds left, but Heather, Alderman Patrick Daley Thompson gets a temporary trial reprieve. I get paid to talk with the prosecutor asking for a delay. Remind us briefly who he is and what he's charged with.
Well, he is the 11th Ward Alderman who happens to be the son and nephew of long-serving Chicago mayors. He is charged with filing false tax returns and then lying about it. He had been set to go on trial on Monday. He says he's determined to clear his name, and it's been only a few months since he's been indicted, but he will have to wait a little bit longer for that try because the prosecutor suffered a family medical emergency. So it could be November or even in 2022 before that trial takes place, because trials have to follow COVID rules, which makes scheduling very difficult at the Dirksen courthouse.
Yep, everything takes a little bit longer. I'm sure you'll be keeping an eye on that one as well.
I sure will.
Heather Sharon, Amanda Venicky, and Paris Schutz. That's Spotlight. Thank you.